Hi, welcome to Silver Screen News with us, the Silver Screen Dudes. I'm Anthony Jordan.
I'm Nico Luro.
Okay, we're talking top fives, and this is an interesting one. We're talking sequels. Nick, give us a bit more.
We're talking the best sequels of all time. There's this recurring argument throughout, versed cinema fans and those who are not so versed, but it's almost a stereotype where people say sequels are never as good as the originals, right? And sadly, more often than not, that actually I would say is true. But there is a shining light in all of this, and there's a silver lining to a very grey cloud that is usually sequels are not as good. We are going to do the top 5 sequels that were not marginally, but were by quite a long way as good, if not better, than the originals. So who started last week? I think it was me.
Yeah, I believe it was you.
Your bottom 3, mate. Off you go.
Here we go. In the 5th position for me is the Paul Walker classic and the franchise that was built without Vin Diesel in this one. Yes, the one and only Too Fast, Too Furious.
Okay. Really? Really?
Do you know what? Everyone's going to have their argument over where this stands. I know the early stages of Fast and the Furious, you're not a fan of anyway.
No, I'm not.
So it's going to be very difficult to convince you for this. And to be honest, it just made the list to me, and it took a while for me to remember it. But when I look back, I just remember more comedy in it. I think Fast and Furious is a film... Yes, it built a storyline, but you didn't need. It could have ended there, and it was. But they came back strong with the sequel, and I think what also worked is the fact that everyone was scared that Vin Diesel's gone, but Paul Walker took the mantelpiece of right. Okay, everyone's gone. Yes, R.I.P. Definitely greatly missed, and they done really well with making him still appear in 7. But yeah, I look at it and I think this film actually worked. The original cast were completely gone, bar one man. The enemy and what have you, and I like the challenge. I think Tyrese gave a nice comedic aspect to it.
Tyrese was good.
I think Ludacris was a nice addition. It had that kind of Pimp My Ride vibe, which was around quite heavily.
Very much.
And it was you kind of had more of the cars than the personality in this film as well.
First, so you said something before about how I didn't like the original Fast movies, right? The thing is that the first few Fast and Furious movies, basically the first one, I thought it was just a big lost jumbled mess. Is it a street racing movie? Is it a gangster movie? Is it a heist movie? What is it? The second one actually went, at the time, Need for Speed Underground was the huge craze. Pimp My Ride was a huge craze. The second one basically embraced its inspiration and went, we're going to go full, car. The drag race, the sprint race that they had at the beginning.
Right, you even go into spoiler, ejector seats. We had it all.
Yeah, they focused a lot more on the cars, but the Fast and then with 3, which I actually like, and I think I'm one of the very few on the planet who likes
I can't
this.
embrace Tokyo Drift.
3 went even more into the car culture, and then 4, and I think my real love for this franchise started with number 5. Hold it. I know what you want.
I'm tempted to go there, but I'm not going to go there.
The thing is that 5, they actually decided, right, we are going to be a heist franchise. We're going to steal stuff. We're going to be robbing banks, and we're going to be doing it using Fast. Not necessarily tricked out, pimped out pink with vinyls and neons down the undersides. We're not going car crazy. We're just going to emphasize the fact that we are good getaway drivers. And that's when the franchise started to win me over. If we're looking at the franchise as in its roots, which is, it was inspired by the MTV generation and by the Need for Speed, then okay, yeah, 2 is better than 1. But considering what the franchise has become...
But this is where I have an argument with the franchise. I believe the film was based on street racing. Yes, they're criminals doing what they do. There is a strong element of heist that they do. But the main aspect to it was a street racing movie. It was set in a town. There was... the element was trying to catch what have you. And I think 2 brought more of the street racing element to it.
It did. At the time. You have to take it within its time.
But even, let's take...
If you look at it as in the franchise as the whole,
It changed. But you being a fan of Tokyo Drift, that was a street racing movie. My thing
Very much.
My problem with it, and that's what kept it changed. And that's fine. I'm totally fine. I still subscribe to the Fast franchise. My problem was it was just too heavy on the drifting. And it was too much. And to be honest with you... Bow Wow wasn't anything special. Yeah, he came out with a Hulk car. It just wasn't strong enough. But 2, I think, was, that's my Fast movie if I had to.
Yeah, the acting wasn't that strong in number 3. There's no doubt about that. But I think to defend myself, because I'm well aware that 3 is not a good movie. If Link Above AJ's Head, we did top 5 guilty movie pleasures a few weeks ago. That probably should have been in my guilty pleasures. It wasn't a good movie. I think the reason it ranks so strongly with me is because I am, for lack of a better expression, a Japanophile. Now, at the risk of sounding perverse, what I mean by that is I'm fascinated by Japanese culture. The food, the history, the modern day versus the historic culture, the evolution, their street racing culture. They're all about attention to detail. So the way they had these computers linked up to the cars going, well, you're going to get that amount of RPM if you do this, that, and the other. I was like, okay, cool. That's cool. And like Too Fast, Too Furious, it took serious inspiration from the games of the canyon racing. That was straight out the games.
No, definitely.
But yeah, Too Fast, Too Furious is definitely better than Tokyo Drift. That goes without that. I'm not sold on this one.
It's at my number 5, don't get me wrong. There were many sequels and I could actually go out for honourable mentions, but Too Fast, Too Furious was my film and it was the sequel. I remember sitting there watching it and thinking, this is actually better than number 1. Not that I hated number 1, but I thought this is better than number 1. So for that aspect, I can't deny what it was.
Well, I still remember the call you put through to me.
Really?
I still remember it. You probably don't. It's one of those weird memories that there's nothing special you said, but it rang true because I was heavy into that Need for Speed game, and I think you remember I wasn't big on the first one.
This is it, yeah.
You called me and you were like, no, this one is all about the cars. And for some reason that just stuck with me, and I was like, okay, I'll give this a chance.
Right. This one, okay, number 4th position. I'm actually shocked because when I first... We agreed, we got the message come through. Oh my god, excuse me. Right, when we first got the message come through that we're doing sequels, instantly this was the film that hit my head, and I thought this is going to be my number 1. The furthermore I think of it, go through my sequels, it's actually at number 4. Doc Brown and Marty, yes.
Great Scott!
Great Scott! It's at number 4. Back to the Future Part 2. For the longest, it's my biggest 80s memory, Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox owns the 80s for me in terms of memories. If I ever think of the 80s, that's what I think of. It's that film, the Back to the Future franchise. And number 2 was so futuristic, but so realistic. We're not talking futuristic to the point of Space 1999. Everything else in the future, as we always, as I said last week in something, we always have floating cars and floating devices for some unknown reason. But you weren't in space. 2015 was still in the Earth, and it just looked very futuristic. And I think you have to have seen it in that era, whether it's late 80s, early 90s, just within that era. You're trying to see
I think this may be why I went wrong. More on that in a minute.
Yeah, 2015, it was like, wow, this is what we're going to look at. And it was nice. You know, you had the element of number 1, he went in the past, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but he done what he done. This one, he's going into the future. He's avoiding meeting his actual self. You know, there's a chance of him seeing himself. He's family
doubled up,
himself. The Great Sports Almanac. I'm not even going to get into that. It just shows how much you can change history. Watch the film,
the Sports Almanac made me like, I gotta get me one of those. Forget the shoes and the hoverboard. I gotta get me a Sports Almanac. Truth be told, I think you've actually just hit the nail on the head of why I like number 1 more than number 2. Because number 2, from the way you've described it, and I can imagine when it came out, it was very much a movie of its time.
Yeah.
You know, it was giving you a look ahead. But we are now in the year that the future of Back to the Future 2 was set in. So I'm looking at it in the 2015 perspective, thinking, the idea is great. I wish we were more like the movie in some ways.
Exactly.
And in the other ways, I'm like, Number 1, I think, had a much bigger emotional core to it. I preferred the way that he was going back, helping his father. Everything from the way the father was bullied in his time. Then you can see it was the same in the past. Then he tried to rectify all that, turn his father into a bit of a prom star, doing it. I was like, maybe you aren't ready for that. It's great, and the 2 really played with the future elements a lot more as opposed to the past. So it was actually probably more truer to the title. Personally, I prefer number 1.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's the sequel of sequels. It was the sequel of sequels to me. I'm hating myself because another one I thought would even be my number 2, if not number 1, was my introduction to the man behind me.
The man, if you want to live.
Yeah, the man I worship. The one, as I mentioned before, is everything to me.
Get to the chopper. Get to the point, AJ. What are you doing?
It's Mr. Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Yeah, it was... I'll be honest, I saw 2 before I saw 1.
Me too.
And
me
that,
too.
To me was, I had my parents like, okay, this happened here, and that's why it's here, and this is why she's on the floor, and she's scared of him.
Yeah.
Terminator 2.
Same here, yeah.
Terminator 2, however, was ahead of its time. I don't care what anybody says.
It still is.
It's everything you needed in a Terminator.
That liquid metal.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought that back again for Terminator Jenny Smith. And there's this visual, I think it's up online, like if you type in, I'm pretty sure it's this, type in graphics comparison T2 and Genesis. They show the liquid metal next to each other. It looks as good in 1995 as now. It's nuts what James Cameron can do.
Yeah.
And he made a movie that's in my list, by the way.
Okay. Not that one.
Not this one, but he's got one in my list.
No, fair enough. That was... And I think,
sorry, I should have said, this is also my number 3.
Oh, so probably should have punted.
No, this is your number 3.
Yes.
5, 4, 3. It's my number 3 too.
Okay, yeah, cool. So, yeah, we're cool to go?
Yeah, we're good to go. Sorry, my bad.
To me, it was, and I think it was a good thing that we had a good Terminator versus a bad Terminator as well, which you wouldn't have understood if I didn't understand it at the time that there was only one Terminator, but the aspects, the cinematography behind it, I don't normally like to get into that. I normally just like to go into storyline and the arc behind it. But we have John Connor, we have Sarah Connor, we have the Terminator. The liquid, I'm going to mention a scene that was always so amazing. Exactly. You're going through it's the gun getting caught in the cage. The entire body goes through there and it's like, ding. That hits me.
No, it's the first time I saw that, I went, what?
If there was a film that's not a horror, but still had you like,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking guns, we're talking action. I think this is... If we do a top 5 action, Terminator 2 could be in my action list because it was...
It might be.
It had... I wouldn't say it necessarily tops it, but it to me was my first real introduction to action. Of course, there were other films that I've come across that were made at the same time I came across later, probably. It could have been even a week later, but when I saw that film, it was like, wow. And being I'll be honest, I was under the age of seeing it, and it was like,
damn straight, wow. Me too. Thank you, my uncle.
It was like, wow.
Yeah,
I've just seen
that movie and Jurassic Park.
I was actually
those two really, in terms of the effects and what they could achieve on cinema for their time, just made me go.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
That's what cinema's about,
without a doubt. Actually, yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. That's number 3.
That's my 3.
Alright, I'm going to just refer to my list here. What is my number 5? Okay, do you know what? I'm going to have to do a disclaimer here. I don't think this is on your list, and I don't want to put it on mine.
Interesting.
I'm not going to put it on, but we're doing a top sequels of all time, and I just got a feeling that there's going to be so many people watching who are going to come, we're going to be getting to the end of this list and go, where's that? So I have to mention this, Godfather Part 2. I'm not putting it on my list.
Do you know what? It was on those things.
It has to be on your radar.
It has to be there, but I'm not going to say it because that could be too much trouble for camera.
No, I'm going to say what I actually feel. I don't like the Godfathers.
Snap. Cool. That I didn't want to say. I'm not the biggest fan. I'll tell you.
Do you know what? There's this scene in Family Guy, which I don't know if you've seen it. It rings so true to me. Peter and the family are in a panic room. They've got someone breaking into their house, and it starts to flood, and they're sort of up to there, just below the ceiling, and they're like, well, if there's anything anyone wants to say, say it now. And Peter goes, I have something to say. I did not care for The Godfather. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And you've got the song going, oh, what do you mean you didn't care for The Godfather? Robert De Niro, Pacino, Robert Duvall. And it's like, I'm sorry. What Peter says, it insists on itself. It's true. If I want to see a gangster movie, I will always be more drawn to Scorsese's interpretation of gangster, Goodfellas, Casino. I'll be more drawn towards the gangster British films like Snatch, like Lock, Stock. I cannot explain why. From a cinematic perspective, it is beautiful. From the evolution of how one character gets drawn into a world which he was not really wanting to be part of other than by family ties is amazing. The way that they, in number 2 especially, show the duality of how they have evolved into their position of Godfather. De Niro playing the Vito Corleone and Al Pacino playing Michael Corleone. The Mirror. I mean, it's masterclass filmmaking. You know, if by default, if we were making a top 5 movies of all time, I would consider it, but I don't want to put it on my list simply as a personal preference. We say every week, all things in movie are subjective. I recognize its greatness. That cannot be questioned.
I will give you
that isn't open for debate. The greatness of that movie is objectively you know, it's in the stratosphere. It's amazing. I don't want to put it on my list because I don't like it. It ends there.
Do you know what?
Ranted a bit long there, but I mean, we have to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You can't make a sequel to this without talking Godfather 2. Shoot us. I mean, I may have put us out there, but I'm being honest with you guys. I recognize its brilliance. I don't like it.
Agreed. Again, you know what? I'm going a bit rude. Opinions are a bit like an a-hole. Everyone has one. We aren't Godfather fans.
Jay.
No, but fact is fact. You asking for the silver screen dude's opinion.
Yeah.
Neither of us are Godfather fans. It happens.
And you will find a million and one smarter people out there than us who are Godfather fans who will be able to take the Pepsi challenge with us of why this movie should be there, and I'll probably agree with them. It's just a personal preference. We don't like these movies. Disclaimer over.
Yeah, cool.
My number 5 is James Cameron. No, do you know what? I'm going to put that at number 4. We'll get to that in a minute. James Cameron movie. I'll talk about that in a minute. My number 5 is actually the third part of a very loved trilogy, which has become a quadrilogy, which it shouldn't have. How do you make...
It's going even further than quadrilogy if I think I know which one you're talking.
It might be, yeah. How do you make... Hint, hint. Junior, how do you make a movie as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark better?
You had Sean Connery.
You had Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
I am talking Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Very nearly.
God, I love this movie. I love this movie. A lot of people... Temple of Doom seems to be the one that splits people. I personally love all the original 3. Temple of Doom, I completely get why people don't like it, because it doesn't stick to Indy's core. You know, he fights Nazis in a fedora and whip.
Yeah,
that's Indy. The Last Crusade, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, I don't think is as good as the Last Crusade. Not to say it's not a good movie. It's phenomenal.
It's a preference. If I had to pick one, to be honest with you, I nearly went for it, but it was. It's a sequel. Don't get me wrong, but it's the third, and I was like, I'm sticking to 2. Of course, it's a sequel.
The chemistry between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford. The idea going after the Holy Grail. I mean, following the diary to go through all the steps. I mean, this inspired so much. I mean, if you play computer games, Uncharted, the diary and the character, that's all indie. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know, get to know, right?
Yeah, no,
I mean, this is such a great movie, and the beginning which had a young Indiana Jones played by, again, rest in peace, River Phoenix. Is where you see how he got that scar across his chin. It was just so good.
Yeah.
It was so good, and ending in the desert in the canyon of the crescent moon. I love it.
It's a childhood favourite, actually. I can't lie. It's weird it's not on the list.
The underground scene in Venice when they go into the library. Your father would love it if you... he wouldn't have got past the rats. He hates rats. You know, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's just so good. So that's my number 5. My number 4. Now we come to James Cameron. The man who inspired a generation... And it's still going, actually, of Space Marines. Boom, boom, boom. They're in the walls. They're everywhere. Aliens. As in Alien 2. Alien 1 got people's attention into outer space, along with Star Wars, obviously, right? But it made the horror element of space. It started it all. The chestburster scene is iconic. Aliens didn't rely on a scene as its standout, and whereby you may have heard me argue, again, link above AJ's head, you may have heard me argue way back in the top 10 horror movies how the alien wasn't used as like a monster, it was used as a serial killer stalking its prey. This one, James Cameron just said, you know what, it's gonna be horror because these are xenomorphs and they're scary creatures. This is an action movie. I'm just gonna throw wave upon wave upon wave of aliens at you. I'm gonna throw a little girl in there to have that element of fear added. I'm gonna have, space marines shooting these futuristic guns. I'm gonna have this machine, which, if you want unnerving sounds, that tracker they have, the bing, 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 bing.
Definitely.
And that scene where they've got the gun turrets set up at each end of the hall, and you see the bullets just going down and down. Jesus, it's pissing bullets. Sorry. And you just see it get to zero, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And again, what did it do? It made Ellen Ripley, the original female badass, even better. All right?
For sure.
This is what gave women's roles in Hollywood. It was the first of many stepping stones to get women a lot more appreciated and a lot more recognized and given more chances in Hollywood. This movie showed that women can be fantastic leads and that they can be amazing badasses.
Yeah.
All right. She was a space marine. She had the mother element, the way she was looking after the kid. She was the brains of everything, knowing what to expect. And the special effects, of course. Cameron again.
I can't say no more.
And then you made Titanic, and then you made Avatar, and it's like, can he do wrong?
Yeah.
Can he do wrong?
You've proven otherwise.
My number 3 we know was Terminator 2, another Cameron movie. So your number 2.
Okay. As you said, you believe I'm gonna have a disclaimer. This is my disclaimer.
If it's what I think it is, punt.
Okay.
Punt.
We're gonna punt.
We're gonna punt because it's my number.
Do I have to declare the name then?
Declare the name.
The name is The Empire Strikes Back. Is this
punt?
We're punting.
We're punting.
Okay.
Well, actually, we've only got 2 left, and I think my number 2 might be your number 1.
Okay, this is gonna be interesting.
So we'll switch to my number 2, which is, and I thought my jokes were bad. We're punting?
Yeah. Okay. Which way do we go now?
Let's talk about both of them. All right.
Okay.
We'll start with the one which you're comfier with.
The one I'm comfortable with, my number 1.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go with Heath Ledger's last movie, performance of a lifetime. The one, the only, Dark Knight. Now,
I just want my phone call.
I'm going to stick with 2 elements of this. I've always been a major fan of, believe it or not, the original Tim Burton, even Joel Schumacher element of Batman.
Be specific on the Joel Schumacher element, because you're opening up...
Forever.
Yes, thank you, because you are opening up a serious can
forever.
of...
I couldn't go deep enough to bring in Mr. Freeze. But, right, okay.
You're not sending me to the cooler.
I get shivers thinking about the cooler. Now... I heard of Batman Begins, and it was like starting all over again. And I'm not always the biggest fan of rebooting. And this is
true.
My biggest reboot on my favourite superhero. Yeah, actually the logo, yeah, there we are. Anyway, moving on. The Batman. And we've got this thing, and then we have Christian Bale, who, at the time, he's done fantastic. He's done fantastic.
Bale's a genius.
He's done fantastic with the role. He wasn't who I originally wanted to be Batman at the time, and I'm very hard-headed.
Who was, by the way?
I'm not going to get into it because people are just going to go into an argument that's not worth it. Because the angle they've taken, it's worked.
I think I remember actually. Yeah, don't.
Exactly, it's not worth it. What's going to come in next was the voice. I had a real issue with the Batman voice. And I had all these issues going on. And I was like, okay, right, let's see this. Now, you got number 2 coming, and then you hear Heath Ledger's going to play the Joker. So we're finally getting the Joker.
My reaction is this.
Exactly that. We finally get the Joker coming, who is Batman's arch enemy. Then we have the issue.
Put a pin on that. We like the performance. Before anything is said.
This is
when we started hearing news. We know what the end result was, all right? But when we started, please continue.
My initial reaction, no, Jack Nicholson is the Joker.
Damn straight.
That's what I said.
Say the line, go on. Say it.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Yeah. You see that, and that's like, that's what I love about Burton. The way he used lines, even in Returns, which could have made my top 5, because that took my favourite line, was a kiss could be deadly. What is it? Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it, but a kiss is even deadlier if you mean it. And the way he plays on that is fantastic. But anyway, I remember walking into a supermarket and seeing Heath Ledger on the cover of Empire magazine as the Joker. And I said, okay, this can work.
Oh yeah.
I
remember you sent me the IMDb link, and I went, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Every doubt I had of the Joker, every doubt I had of a film I didn't appreciate too much because of all the issues I was ticking off from Begins, were completely and utterly erased. The Dark Knight. Oh my days.
This is not a Batman movie, as far as I'm concerned. This is a crime thriller with people in masks and makeup.
Yeah, I will give you that.
This is a crime thriller, movie.
It was... I'm going to throw it out there. Possibly the best superhero movie. Well, taking the element from what you said, you'll disagree with it. But in terms of looking at a
it's number 2
level,
for me. You know what my number 1 is.
Yeah, well, we've got that. And to me, that was it. It was very difficult to follow up with that. Even mention of the Joker now, before it was like, who could take over Nicholson? It's like, you really want... And this is no offense to Jared Leto. What I've seen so far, it looks interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk about Jared Leto in a tick, but...
You're really looking to take on the role that he has owned.
Well, someone had... Oh, you meant about Jared Leto. And...
Yeah. But the whole aspect of it...
Well, the argument was the same when Heath Ledger was... You really want to take on the role that Jack Nicholson made his own? Yeah.
But all elements, the sacrifice, the action, the crime drama behind it, everything. There's no such thing as a perfect movie, but if I was to get close to it, I think this would be one. And as a sequel...
As a sequel, it's phenomenal. The problems I had with the original Batman were actually the fight scenes. The camera was too close. It was very hard to keep track of what was going on. Really hard. I liked seeing his training with the League of Shadows. I thought that was cool.
That I liked.
Ra's al Ghul I thought was a good choice in terms of using the character. It was far less comic booky, and they made Ra's al Ghul, who's supposedly a character who can live forever, they managed to make him believable, which I thought was clever. But ultimately, after Batman Begins, we were all like, okay, even people who don't like Batman, the comics, the cartoon, just Batman movie fans are like, where's the Joker?
Yeah,
he's the one you want to see. And when that card came at the end of Batman Begins, we were like, oh yes. That was in the cinema. But then obviously people get out the cinema and they start thinking, but who's going to play him?
Yeah.
I was not the biggest Heath Ledger fan before this movie. I have to admit that. I appreciate that he was pretty much recognized across the board as one of the best up-and-comers. And he was, he was going to be something. Well, he left a legacy in that one movie.
Do you know what? In a way, it could... rest in peace, Heath Ledger. It's difficult because you think... and it sounds morbid to say this, was he fortunate enough to have left with the ultimate performance, or could he have delivered better? Because it was such a performance.
I don't want to think about that.
It's amazing which way it could go.
Do you know, here's the argument I will get into, and I will bring this up on camera. It's more as we've moved away in years since this movie's release, there's the argument has grown on the other side of where I stand, and I believe you stand of. People just say it was great because he died. No. And every time, I am so adamant about this. Look, every time someone makes that argument about how it's because he died, I will go back and watch the movie and try watch it objectively and think, okay, let's look at this. I know I love it, but actually, let's look at this. Let's try. It's a faultless performance. It will be considered one of the best acting performances of all time.
I believe so.
It just grabs you. It's so good the way he portrays the Joker. That movie is about the Joker. It's his movie.
It's the Joker. It's the Joker's movie. It's not the Batman movie. It's the Joker's movie.
And here we go. I mean, why so serious?
Oh no, I got these scars, and it's a different story. Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen it, this one I can't stress enough. Where have you been? And see it.
Yeah, it's not your average superhero movie.
It's really not.
It's not.
It's down and dirty and dark.
It's not your average superhero movie, which is what that whole Batman series done. Actually, it wasn't your average superhero movie.
So now we got to go to my number 1 and your number 2.
Yeah.
The movie with the biggest twist of all time. Empire Strikes Back.
This one, I'm going to get shot for, but I'm going to go out there.
Be careful how you say this.
I'm going to say this in a way, and stick with me, don't shoot me straight away, please. I saw Star Wars Episode 4, The New Hope, and I thought, yeah, okay, nothing special. Yeah, go for it. Why? I've seen Episode 1, right, and I've seen
Talk to them, because
I've seen elements, right. I just had a lack of Jedi. I had everything I expected from Star Wars wasn't there. What I then saw in Return, The Empire Strikes Back,
Okay.
was what I needed. This is Star Wars to me. The lightsaber fights, the element. You had more of Darth Vader, who is, without a shadow of a doubt, the face of evil when it comes to film. You picture that mask, you know it. The red lightsaber. It's all. There was a lightsaber fight, but you will not beat the lightsaber fight that you had in The Empire Strikes Back. The music came in.
I actually think the Phantom Menace lightsaber fight's the best one.
It's
Fight,
strong.
not movie. Not movie.
It's a strong
Fight.
argument. It's a very strong argument. What also I learned, what we saw as well, is Luke learning how to be a Jedi.
Which was great.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anyone else who's in the same boat as me. I don't want to, but I'm gonna be honest.
do not.
We have Obi-Wan.
Try.
Yeah, we have Obi-Wan. We have Yoda. Everyone's just more involved. There's the real Jedi training. I just think I keep getting it wrong. The Empire Strikes Back was the one that hit the chord. You have real Jedi training. You have that real aspect of what it is to be a Jedi. The real force, the revelation of revelations came out.
The greatest twist in movie history.
Yeah.
The scene that everyone knows without even seeing the movie. People know what's coming.
Yeah. And
No, I am your father. It's that's not possible. It's so good.
And to me, that's why, you need to see number 1 to see number 2 without a shadow of a doubt. But, you need to see number 4 to see number 5 if we're going to stick in the real arc of it all. But yeah, that to me was the Star Wars captivating moment to me. And that's my...
I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that. It's my number 1 because I think it's the greatest sequel. If there was ever a movie where you could say, you know what's better than the first? Empire is better than Star Wars. And that's not to say Star Wars or any of the movies in the originals that we've named here bad. But if there was a be-all to end-all of this is better than the original, I'd say it's Empire. And the only thing I've got to add to that, the way that number 4... or the original, I should say, ended so strong with that Death Star trench run. How do you top that? Oh, you just do AT-ATs walking in the snow and wrapping their legs up. I mean, like, booyah! That was such a great opening for a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh!
Yeah. It was.
Right. We're going a little bit over time here, so let's wrap. I don't think the Rushmore's going to be that tricky on this one.
Okay.
So we got to do our Rushmore now. Pitch our top 4 must-see sequels.
So we have 3 already. I don't know if you agree.
Dark Knight, Terminator, and Empire. Yeah. Lock those in.
Yeah, so without a doubt. We won't work in no specific order.
Okay.
Now, Back to the Future Part 2 is quite strong to me, as I've mentioned earlier. But I'm an indie fan. However, I will say
Aliens.
I don't necessarily want to see Harrison Ford in twice. So Indy's off the
Says a lot
card.
about the actor. Okay,
Yeah, no, well deserved, well respected.
But then you can argue you don't want to see 2 movies that are in space, or you don't want to see 2 movies that are by James Cameron.
And by that, Back to the Future wins. That's my strong argument. I think it's difficult because you respect it, but it's not in there. Now, I believe it should be in there because we have our superhero element, we have our sci-fi element, we also have the Cameron element, we have the robots, androids, what have you. Back to the Future is completely different. We're talking time travel.
Terminator was sci-fi, and Terminator is also time travel.
Yeah, true. Okay. Now, what makes...
It just got hard. Damn it. So basically, I think we're fighting for Back to the Future and Aliens.
Yeah, I think that's our final 2.
Yeah.
As I said, Too Fast, Too Furious is there, but it's not arguable.
Indie Last Crusade is there, but I think Aliens and Back to the Future are stronger.
Now, these hold quite dear to us personally. These are both very
just
personal
got hard.
films. I would say...
Back to the Future.
Because we have fans from ages 1 to infinity and beyond. Hey, Toy Story 2 could have been in there. But anyway. Point. But because we're going for a general view for all our fans, any fan can watch Back to the Future Part 2. You have to be a certain age to watch Aliens.
Damn, you got a good argument. You got a good argument. Do you know?
And we don't want to be biased to any directors. With 2 James Cameron movie, that wouldn't work either. 2 points in the air.
Games match. I can't get this one. I'm going to give you this one.
Right.
I'm going to give you this one.
Cool.
You got that one. Here we go. Okay, so our Mount Rushmore. Here's the graphic. In no particular order. The first entry is...
The Empire Strikes Back. The Dark Knight.
Our third entry is...
Terminator 2.
You hesitated there.
How could I?
And the last one, I hope you don't hesitate here.
Great Scott!
Back to the Future Part 2. So that is our top 5 movie sequels show. That is our Mount Rushmore done, guys. As always, please tell us what is your favourite movie sequel. Are we going to get a shot for not liking The Godfather Part 2?
I believe that. I think we
that's
forgot
coming.
the cannoli.
I think that's coming. Let us know what you think of this show. Let us know what you think of our list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please comment below and share what your top 5 is. Share what your all-time greatest sequel is. And AJ, wrap it up for us.
Right, okay, yes, as you know, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. And we own Social Network, and of course subscribe to us on YouTube, where you catch us Monday to Friday with a different show. But until then, I'm Anthony Jordan.
I'm Nico Luro.
See you guys later.
See ya.